So we're going to start here concretely. Students do need experience to represent these concretely. So if I think about 47 plus 32, it doesn't matter with the commutative property which one I represent first, but for this case, I'm representing 47 first. Then I'm going to add on 32. If I think about 32, I think about that being 3 tens and 2 ones. So I'll put in 3 additional tens. And I'm also going to put 2 additional ones. If you notice here, my ones are organized in sort of like a 10 frame. Sometimes it helps, especially with the progression from kindergarten and first grade, of just keeping them organized. Sometimes the ones can be all over the place. So if I look at this and I've combined my tens and my ones, I can see I have 70, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. And then I've got 9 ones here. So I know that my sum must be 79. So let's move to see if they've had multiple experiences with the concrete. We're going to want to connect this to drawings. So let's shift our kind of understanding there. If we go back to thinking if we can connect strategies and they're not all separate, if we connect them to the concrete, we have them represent 47. We're going to literally get them to help mimic this exact same action on their paper. They can make a place value chart with tens and ones, represent that first add-in of 47. And then if I'm adding 32, I have my 3 tens and my 2 ones. I have my 3 tens and my 2 ones, and I should get a sum of 79. So thinking that progression, taking this drawing, and then we're going to connect it to the place value strategy. The place value strategy is more abstract because we're going to be primarily using numbers. But if I think about 47 and 32, and I decompose by place value, or I break apart by place value, I know that 47 has 4 tens, which is equivalent to 40, and it has 7 ones, which is equal to 7. I know that 32 has 3 tens, which is equivalent to 30, and 2 ones that is equivalent to 2. And even if I had to come back here and connect the 40 plus the 30 and the 7 plus the 2, I certainly could connect the abstract with the concrete or the pictures. But thinking I have a total of 70 plus 9, which is equal to 79. The key here is that we do not get into the algorithm. So we're not going to be adding columns of 7 plus 2 is 9 and 4 plus 3 is 7, because your standard says that it must be around strategies connected to place value. So think about if this is something that they've been exposed to in the past, you're going to want them to show their understanding in another way. So let's move now to thinking about regrouping. One thing I'll just go ahead and put as a disclaimer is that you are going to be doing all of this with word problems as well. So we're just going to look at them for numbers right now to get into the strategies, but you would want to make sure that you get into all of the different types of word problems that they have had since first grade. So let's move into regrouping. One thing I'm going to say just on the front end is that there is no replacement for seeing students actually do this work, because they're going to maybe make a mistake and somehow with the exchange of the regrouping or the representation. So having students show their work and share their thinking is going to really help connect this and also know where you can intervene to help. So let's look at 28 plus 29. I have 28 represented, and I'm going to add 29 more. So I've got my base 10 blocks out. I think about 29 being 2 tens, and then I think about it being 9 additional ones. So if I keep mine organized in the 10 frame, I can decompose that 9 into 2 and 7 more. This is all familiar language that they've had in kindergarten and first grade, so we want to make sure we don't shy away from terms like decompose, because that's something that they've already heard. They've also focused on the 10ness. So I can look over here and see, oh wow, I've got 10 ones right here. I'm going to exchange these 10 ones for another rod. Sometimes you can just have them hold the 10 ones and have them hold the rod at the exact same time just to make sure that one goes away. But I can see now I've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and I've got 7 ones, so 50 plus 7 is 57. So if I've had multiple experiences where I've actually regrouped and exchanged, I can begin to connect that again to drawings. So thinking about, I can represent my T-chart with tens and ones. Thinking about, I started with 28. So I had 28. I've added on 29. And again, having them side by side just helps with the connection. Can I decompose that 9 into 2 and 7? And so now I'm ready to add on 2 and then my 7 more. I've got my 2 10s over here. So I added 29 on. I can see this makes a group of 10. I'm going to pull it over to add an additional 10 and get rid of those 10 that are left. I see that I have 5 10s and 7 1s, which is 50 plus 7, which is 57. So now we're going to connect that to the place value strategy. So thinking about the problem that we've been looking at, which was 28 plus 29, I'm going to decompose it by place value, which we've been representing with those base 10 blocks. So I know I represented 28 as 20 plus 8, and I represented 29 as 20 plus 9. So again, I can use these to help me if I needed to, and show that I had the 8, and then I added on an additional 9. Or hopefully some of our fact fluency practice that we've had leading into this unit will help me recall that 9 plus 8 is 17. And then I also have 20 plus 20, which is 40. And then if I think about decomposing the 17 into a 10 and a 7, I can easily add 40 plus 10 plus 7, which is 57. Okay, again, being careful that we're not going to get into the 7 plus the 1 and the 1 plus the 2 plus the 2. Your strategies are all around place value. The last strategy is more in that decomposing vein. So we're going to really think about mental math here. Again, going to the importance of having your students talk and share their strategies, because you're going to have more than one way to solve this problem. But if I think about 28 and 29, you might have someone who realizes that 28 is 2 away from 30. And if it's 2 away from 30, 27 plus 2 is the 29. So then I can break these apart to say 28 plus 2 is 30. And then 30 plus the remaining 27 is 57, which is a skill that they've learned in first grade. So you can think about decomposing as breaking apart and being more flexible. Also, you're going to have students that can recognize that an 8 plus a 9 is a near double or doubles plus 1 fact, so it could be an 8 plus 8 plus 1. So just thinking about the variety that they can have and allowing them to explore that number sense through their strategies.